The night was cold, the kind of biting cold that seeps through your jacket and settles into your bones, making you shiver even if you're standing still. On a lonely road at the edge of a quiet town, a sudden screech shattered the silence. Headlights swerved violently, tires skidded across gravel, and in an instant, the sound of twisted metal and breaking glass ripped through the darkness. A car had slammed into the side of a ditch, smoke rising from the hood, the air heavy with the sharp, stinging smell of gasoline. And in that moment, while most people might have hesitated, afraid of what they'd find, one man didn't. A poor single father, exhausted from a long shift and on his way home to his little boy, threw his old, beat-up truck to the side of the road and sprinted towards the wreck without a second thought. He had no idea that the young woman inside the car, barely conscious and bleeding, was not just another stranger. She was a millionaire, a girl whose life of privilege and wealth was worlds apart from his own. But right then, all he saw was a human life on the edge of slipping away, and he knew he had to save her. Sparkles, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping others no matter who they are, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Together, we can keep spreading stories that remind us what really matters in this world. Sparkles. The man's name was Ethan. He was 32, tall but lean from years of hard labor, with rough hands that had built more things than they had ever been given. His clothes smelled faintly of motor oil, his boots worn and muddy, but his heart carried the quiet strength of a man who had been through battles unseen. He wasn't just running to that car because it was the right thing to do, he was running because he knew what it felt like to lose someone. His wife had died 3 years ago, leaving him to raise his son, Oliver, alone. Every time he looked at Oliver's small face, he was reminded of the promise he had made, to always protect life when he could. When he reached the car, his chest tightened at the sight. The young woman inside was no older than 24, her face pale, blood trickling from her temple. She wore a velvet coat, clearly expensive, but it was torn where the glass had shattered. Her eyes fluttered weakly, trying to stay open, but the crash had taken nearly everything from her. Ethan didn't stop to question her background or her world. He ripped the door open, ignoring the heat radiating from the smoking engine, and pulled her out into his arms just moments before flames began to lick up the front of the hood. The girl was slipping in and out of consciousness as Ethan carried her up the embankment. His own truck was old and barely running, but it was the only chance he had to get her to the nearest hospital. He laid her gently on the worn leather seat, whispering words she couldn't hear, and drove faster than he ever had in his life. Every time she groaned in pain, his grip on the steering wheel tightened, his heart pounding with fear for someone he had never even met before that night. At the hospital, he stayed long after he should have left. He couldn't bring himself to walk away from her, even when the doctors rushed her into surgery. Hours passed, and he sat in the waiting room with tired eyes and a mind filled with memories of his wife's final night in a hospital bed. He thought of Oliver sleeping alone in their small apartment, waiting for his dad to come home. But Ethan stayed. Something about that girl's fragile breath had stirred a part of him he thought was long buried, the part that still believed in miracles. When she finally woke up 2 days later, the first thing she saw was him, slumped in a chair by her bedside, his head resting in his hands. He hadn't meant to stay that long, but every time he thought about leaving, something stopped him. She whispered a faint, "Thank you," and though her voice cracked, it was enough to bring him back to life. Her name was Isabella. He didn't know then that she came from a family whose wealth stretched across cities and companies. He didn't know that people usually surrounded her for what she had, not who she was. All he knew was that she was alive because he had stopped, and that was enough for him. As the days passed, Isabella learned more about Ethan than he ever intended to share. She learned that he worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table for Oliver, that he sometimes skipped meals so his son never had to, and that despite all of it, he never once complained. There was a quiet dignity in the way he lived, a strength in his humility that fascinated her. She had grown up with everything money could buy, yet in Ethan's world, she saw something she had never truly known: sacrifice born out of love. For Ethan, helping Isabella brought unexpected challenges. Rumors spread in town about him spending time at the hospital with a beautiful stranger. Some mocked him, saying he was chasing after someone far above his reach. But he ignored them. His only focus was on the woman who had nearly lost her life, and the boy who depended on him back home. Still, part of him couldn't help but feel an unspoken bond forming between them. And then, one evening, everything changed. Isabella's family arrived. Her father, a powerful man in an expensive suit, and her mother, elegant yet distant. They were shocked to find their daughter recovering under the watch of a poor single father. At first, they dismissed Ethan with polite gratitude, but Isabella's father noticed the way his daughter's eyes softened whenever Ethan entered the room. It was something he hadn't seen in her for years, something money could never buy. Ethan, realizing who she truly was, stepped back. He didn't belong in her world. He told himself she deserved someone with wealth, someone who could offer her a life far greater than he ever could. But Isabella refused to let him slip away so easily. She had tasted the emptiness of riches, and now she had seen the richness of a man who lived with integrity and love. The story of Ethan and Isabella isn't just about a car crash. It's about two worlds colliding in the most unexpected way. It's about how a man who had lost everything found hope again, and how a woman who had everything realized what she truly needed. By the time Isabella was well enough to leave the hospital, her decision was clear. She wanted to stay connected to Ethan and Oliver, not out of gratitude, but out of genuine affection. Slowly, she became part of their lives, not as the wealthy girl everyone admired, but as someone who learned to cherish laughter over luxury, and love over gold. And for Ethan, who once believed the world had taken too much from him, Isabella's presence reminded him that sometimes, life gives back in ways we never expect. He had saved her life on that dark night, but in many ways, she saved his too. Sparkles, if this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. And leave a comment below. It helps more than you know, and your words might inspire someone else who truly needs it today. Sparkles. Speech balloon special request to comment. What would you have done if you were in Ethan's shoes that night?